What is Chip Kelly waiting for? Just name Dante the starter right now. I'm choking up thinking about it. Let's talk about it on Locked On UCLA.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody. This is the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer, your favorite host, play-by-play broadcaster, and diehard UCLA fan throughout the years. Thanks for making this your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. So like, comment, and subscribe, and become an everyday listener. You missed yesterday's topic about UCLA hoops. Today, we're talking a lot about football. But before we get to football, we're going to talk about some slightly sad news, the passing of UCLA Hall of Famer Denny Crum, who passed away, I believe, earlier this morning. There's a release put out by UCLA Athletics. He was 86, longtime head coach of Louisville, and he was an assistant, even played for John Wooden back in the late 50s, a 2-year career, had over 346 points, played next to Walt Torrance in the Bruins backcourt, and then eventually became an assistant coach with UCLA's program for numerous years. You can go back to the years from 1968 to 69 through 71. He also was with the freshman squad in the early 1960s. So he coached with Wooden, and he coached in the early years and was a longtime head coach of Louisville. So we mourn the loss of Denny Crum, who was nicknamed Cool Hand Luke. Today he passed away at the age of 86, Hall of Fame Bruin. To get things cooking, though, football-wise, Locked On UCLA, we're talking the likes of why should Chip Kelly start Dante Moore? In my mind, I've been harping on this point. If you've been watching and listening to the podcast, whenever I've talked about the quarterbacks, I've been very generally consistent, mostly wanting Dante Moore to start. I don't think there's any reason not to start Dante Moore from all the practice reports I've read and from various media outlets where you go through the Bruin Report Online, whether you look at different podcasts and different sources and just looking at Dante Moore itself, going and reading ESPN's articles. So everybody, 24/7 Sports, is talking about it's the big quarterback battle between Garbers, between Slee, and Dante Moore. The glitz and the glamour can come to UCLA if you start the kid from Michigan. I think there's no reason for UCLA not to start the freshman. And I know you can have a whole thing of, well, why'd you get Slee? And is that a backup option, or is he your starting backup option, right? Where you start with the veteran and then put more in and get everybody excited. Is that the mindset UCLA wants to play with this year? In my mind, I say, hey, from the get-go, you throw the freshman out there and get his licks out early. It's important for UCLA, I would think, hey, let's see what we have in this freshman. Why see it in a 6-game span, 8-game span? Why waste some reps? I know we saw times last year where UCLA just took out DTR. There's no reason. They just played games where, all right, he might be banged up, and we might see some quarterback rotation, which is what could happen to start 2023. Yeah, I'm very much an advocate. Why not just go start Dante Moore? Tell me what's wrong. If he's not the quote unquote chosen one, then we know that right away. If he needs to grow, then you take that development from year 1 to year 2 and hopefully to year 3 if he becomes a longtime Bruin for a 3-year career and maybe goes to the draft or beyond and everything in between. I say just go for it early. And if he needs the time to step back, then you can go with the veteran. If you need to try and win a division title, I guess not even a division title anymore, but try and win some key games in Pac-12 play in their last year. I'm just, you sit here and there's nothing that I've read and seen about Dante Moore that says he is not up to par with the other quarterbacks. It's just Garbers knows the system. He's been around for years. But the experience and the talent for most parts is Colin Slee, who's played D1 ball and did it at a pretty much high level or solid level enough for him to come and compete for the starting job. But the one who's got all the hype, all the stars, and you can talk about how Chip Kelly doesn't get those guys with stars. He develops talent. This is the first time they've had talent. Let's see how it plays out. Why wait a few games after Coastal Carolina? Why wait to the depths of Pac-12 play, take an unnecessary loss when you can get somebody out there. And considering the Bruins, they got some help. They brought in tight ends. They brought in all these guys. Maliki Matavao was quoted at the end of spring practice the other day as saying, this is a different type of team transferring over from Oregon, right? UCLA's got the transfer, Carson Steele is supposed to be fantastic as a running back, with this Crocodile Joe, even though he's an alligator, I forget what it is. But UCLA is a different type of team. And to continue that journey as a different type of team, start the freshmen. I mean, I understand the logic between starting Garbers, between starting Schlee, and any one of these guys could be starting. Chip Kelly has been mum. Anybody could ask him, and under no circumstances in early May is he going to name his starter before any sort of fall camp, before all the development that could happen in the summer between individual workouts and then the fall camp heading into the first week of the season, which if someone has a bad fall camp, then all right, we can get more reports and see he needs to grow for a couple more weeks or for a season and need some tutelage. I just think from all these things, Matsuda, it's the different type of team. You want to be a different type of genius? Let's go throw Dante Moore out there. Those are the big things. But there's cases to be had for all the quarterbacks, yet I think UCLA would be dropping the ball to get everybody excited about a potential freshman phenom that could compete for years to come as the Bruins transition into the Big Ten. You might think I'm rambling and ranting, but show me the evidence. What have we not seen from Moore so far through spring ball that doesn't garner him a chance to get a starting nod to start this year? It's different from what it used to be in college football. You had to earn your right. You had to sit your 2 years, maybe 3 years. Maybe you redshirted and you sat 4 years and you got a 5th year to go find yourself some playing time and earn it. Now, hey, you want to get that talent out there, build your brand, get everybody excited. NIL, get more endorsements, most importantly, bring more people in the stadium, in the Rose Bowl. And then, hey, if he's good, he's got to be great next year. You're going to get talent from year 1 to year 2, right? You want to get this guy ready to go. And I know even Caleb Williams across town, he didn't even start when he was at Oklahoma, right? And then things transitioned, and then all of a sudden he's blossomed and burst onto the scene. I think UCLA just has a unique choice. And will Chip Kelly go with the safe option? Will he go with the veteran option, or will he go with the likes of a Dante Moore, who has been impressive? I think he should. Put in the comments on YouTube or hit Locked On Bruins. What are your thoughts? Dante Moore I see no reason why not to. He should be the starter end of spring practice. We're not going to get that announced now. It doesn't need to be announced now. But just kind of looking down the road, projecting into fall camp, that's what I think should be. What will be could be something completely different and could look more like what will actually happen. Could be a Schlee / Garbers, and then when they struggle, you put in Moore and get everybody excited. We could maybe even see a quarterback rotation. That's not necessarily been debated, but these are things that can happen to the first game, or depending if they're playing a bad team like they will at some point during next season, they might rotate. I just give them all the reps. And if it's bad, we can get worried about it, and then we throw in another quarterback and find out what UCLA needs to recruit. That's why. Just do it. Just do it. In the meantime, speaking of the popularity front, a couple weeks ago, there's the tweet in the article about how popular UCLA's football brand is. What does that mean? Are they popular? Is UCLA more popular than SC? There's no way, right? Could this article be wrong? This is a source they talked about in early last year about how UCLA's brand is much bigger than we think. And hey, you start Dante Moore, your brand gets a little bit bigger. That's what happens. Or if you recruit him. And these are posters, and we'll talk about that coming up here on Locked On UCLA. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, and with all the playoff action, you want to go right now and become a new customer with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 back in bonus bets. That's right. If first bet doesn't win, you get $1,000 back if you're a new customer, and you get those winnings paid instantly on a safe and secure app. It gets paid right now. Everything, all these fun games. If you're going to bet Lakers in 5, Lakers in 6, if you're going to do all these things, if you're going to go crazy, go do it on FanDuel.com/lockedon. Right now. Yeah, go do it. FanDuel.com/lockedon. Right now if you're a new customer, and it's America's #1 sportsbook. And no sweat first bet up to $1,000 back. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of the NBA, and with us here at Locked On. Cruising on into segment 2 of Locked On UCLA, as I teased before, there's an article slightly written about there's an article written on 24/7 Sports based on this marketing research firm analyzed by AL.com. I believe it's an Alabama-based website, and they've done this research before. There's even for the youngsters in the 2022 season, it was talked about how popular UCLA actually is. And while we saw this tweet and this article and the jokes about everything, the top 10 most popular football teams heading into 2023. And while some might joke, UCLA came in this article a couple weeks ago as the number 8th ranked team in the country. They asked different pollsters, up to 2.6 million responded with UCLA, and 1.1 million responded with USC, and 1 million responded with Washington. So UCLA, when it comes to the college football branding, there's a lot of fans. The big question is, how do we get those 2.6 million people? We just need 90,000 of them in the Rose Bowl on a given Saturday, 5 to 6, 7 days a year, depending on the season, and to get them in. Mind you, UCLA is ahead on this list. Notre Dame, Wisconsin, just behind the likes of Georgia and Alabama. Now, if you want to debate about how true that is, the credibility, how much is that actually the college football brand versus, UCLA as a school? Everybody knows what UCLA is, right? One wonders, if you did this similar study in basketball, and I haven't seen it, right? You look at the same thing. SC fans could come on here and be very frustrated. Hey, why are they not higher than UCLA? Yada, yada, yada. I wonder if UCLA would suffer the same problem on the basketball front as USC is falling on this football front, where you can tell one program or the other has, more glitz and glamour, that same couple of words I've been using, the power, the dominance over the years. But one wonders, you think of UCLA basketball, they've been dominant years ago, and now they're still coming back into relevancy while the fans are showing up. You look at these numbers for football, people care about college football, and they're caring about UCLA. One wonders, if you did the basketball polls, if it ironically would be reversed in the opposite way. How you dissect these things, how UCLA is ahead of SC and ahead of Wisconsin, just around Alabama in terms of top 8, top 10 most popular college football team. It's a unique poll, and it's something that's worth debating about. But hey, as much as if you're sitting there as a UCLA fan and you're looking on the screen and everybody on Twitter is making fun of the fact that there was no one in the Rose Bowl last year, and might be this year unless they start Dante Moore, going back to first segment there. I think you just have to realize the branding, as we all know, is much bigger than we think. It's just, how do we convince everybody to get to the Rose Bowl and go watch a UCLA football game? Or are we just all casual folk that doesn't have the passion with nothing to do? As some people might say, they always point to the South, there's nothing to do. There's people have nothing to do in the Midwest. They're just, we got to go. Is that just the California lifestyle where theoretically there'll be more fans, but are we not as passionate, right? Of course, you'll see the Lakers right now. You get everybody going crazy about this crazy run right now in the NBA playoffs. But where's that passion on a given Sunday? Heck, even USC last year struggled with attendance, even though they got all the hype. UCLA and SC, they weren't getting fans. How can we be a popular program and yet not put people in the seats? Those are things, I really struggle to think about, because how can it be a top 8 team? It is kind of a fun little thing to look at, be a top 10 program according to this AL.com website. And I talked about this last summer, where UCLA's branding of college football, popularity is much bigger than people think. Well, the people in the TV networks and all the other people who try to rank teams, UCLA falls below. But don't let them dissuade you that UCLA is popular. We just got to find a way to prove it, that we care about them as much as other people do about their programs across the country. That was just an interesting thing. I found as a little tidbit there. But now if you're kind of getting your juices riled up, hit in the comments. Is UCLA a top 10 popular college football program? Yes, no, Zach, you're dumb, you're rambling, yada, yada, yada. It is what it is. If your blood's boiling, right, perfect end segment for you guys. Perfect end of show for you guys coming up, because, hey, UCLA baseball, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. What is going on with them? Let's talk about it on Locked On UCLA. Moving on through into segment 3 of Locked On UCLA, the UCLA baseball team, my goodness, they have simply lost it right now. I talked about it, I believe, last week on Locked On UCLA, that they're pushing themselves potentially out of the NCAA tournament. And it didn't seem likely with Cal coming up on the schedule, or dare I say, some winnable, maybe not winnable, but some key crucial matchups where you can jump up in the RPI, get some key wins, and maybe fall into a 2 seed. Now, UCLA, I didn't see any other projections, but College Sports Madness, I've looked at them since I was a bit of a youngster, and they have a college baseball projection. And while, you might not see them as a D1 Baseball or Baseball America, I generally view them as a credible source. I didn't see D1 Baseball put one out just yet, at least maybe the one that wasn't behind a paywall. UCLA Baseball, according to collegesportsmadness.com's baseball projection, on a projection that was dropped before this podcast was recorded on May 9th, UCLA is not even in the tournament. Their first 4 outs, they're not even in the field of 64. That is how bad the Bruins have played as of late. They went from, all right, they're in, and with the amount of stumbling they've been doing over these last few weeks, they've been banged up, and we'll get to John Savage's quotes from the Daily Bruin in a little bit. But UCLA is now 24-19-1. Losing series at Washington State, losing series, they couldn't sweep Utah or UC Davis. Those aren't necessarily good programs. And let's take a look at these Pac-12 standings real quick. Before this weekend, Cal had 6 Pac-12 wins and was sitting in the bottom of the standings. They were practically in last place. They were in last place. I believe they're in last or second to last. With that sweep, UCLA is now sitting there under 500 in Pac-12 play. They're 7th in the conference, and they're sitting behind USC, Washington, Oregon State, Stanford, and Arizona State. And yet, here they are with they have to play themselves in. And they just have a terrible series sweep on their resume against Cal. When the Golden Bears were hitting the ball all out of the ballpark at Jackie Robinson, they gave up 10 runs. Overall this weekend, UCLA gave up 28 runs to the worst team in the Pac-12. The worst team in the Pac-12. And it's one thing if this game was in Berkeley, because in Berkeley, where they play, it can be a little bit of a bandbox up there. That's one thing. But they lost at home, knowing everything was on the line. They had truly competed against SC. They were that close to winning the series. They blew it late against the Trojans on the Sunday evening game at Dedeaux Field. Were on the cusp of beating Stanford last week. That almost would have completely flipped the script heading into last weekend. And then this weekend, they come in and practically give up 10 runs per game against the Golden Bears. And it's just like, oh my goodness. What happened to this team that's sitting now 10-12-1 in Pac-12 play? All you got to do to get in the tournament now, in the NCAA tournament that is, other than a Pac-12, tournament run of miracles, is Oregon State. You host them. Yeah, that's always an easy chore, regardless of if they're great, good, or all right. That's tough, even though it's at home. And then you go to Arizona State, who's only leading the Pac-12 this year. And these are some of the quotes from John Savage. I'm reading this from the Daily Bruin. We're behind the 8 ball. We're behind a lot of teams. We know that. Just a little bit of matter of fact about it. Hey, we're struggling. And one of the things he said is I thought we did good offensively. Yeah, that's true. The Bruins overall had multiple hits. Deuce Corson on Sunday got on base 5 times. At least 4 Bruins on Sunday had multiple hit days. Other than Saturday afternoon's game against Cal, the Bruins put up 15 runs combined between Friday night's game and Sunday afternoon's game. But if the pitchers can't keep the ball in the ballpark, then that's not going to lead to wins, which is exactly what John Savage continues to go on and say. We just couldn't keep them in the ballpark. That was the story of the weekend. And based on what he said about the pitching and the pitching performances that have happened so much lately, we're just so beat up and we're just using a lot of different guys and piecing them together. It is what it is, so we've got to bounce back this week. That's the story of where we're at right now. The story is the Bruins are looking on the outside in. You can go through various projections, but winning the series at the minimum, maybe winning a game, could have kept them from the first 4 out just to the last 4 in. But getting swept at home to the worst team in the Pac-12, another series loss in a row. UCLA has lost 3 straight Pac-12 series. They've lost 3 straight weekend series. It's one thing to lose at SC and at Stanford and even compete with Vanderbilt earlier this year, but this team is struggling against it this year. Again, you've got Oregon State, who sits in the Pac-12 at 3rd. You've got Arizona State, who for a long time, I did say it wasn't first, but they're in second place. They've gone back and forth with Stanford. So you're only facing two of the top three teams in the Pac-12 standings right now, with your season on the line to maybe impress a committee that says, all right, if it's UCLA, that's one thing you have to understand. Talking about branding and all these things, putting it together. UCLA, if they're just between UCLA or some other team, they're going to put in UCLA. That's just the reality of the situation. Generally, if it's, UCLA's injuries, they might get the benefit of the doubt, and then we'll get the short end of the stick. But it's tough to rationalize that when you just get smoked at home by Cal. UCLA now this year has lost two series to two of the three worst teams in the Pac-12. And they now have two series left against two of the top three teams in the Pac-12. Is that looking likely that they're going to win this? No, it's just not. And I could go over individual numbers, but it's just a team-wide thing. It's a team-wide thing right now. And the Bruins are struggling on the diamond. And while they can turn around, 2-week surges are no joke in college baseball. They desperately need to get the one against Cal State Fullerton. Any midweek win, their last midweek of the year, can help turn the tide and send them into Arizona on a run, and potentially a run through a conference tournament, a run to the end of conference play, and maybe they'll cling on to a postseason spot that they're currently looking from the outside in on. Man, what started out fun and soft and easy turned out to be a frustrating, rambling, exciting, loud day. So thanks for tuning in to Locked On UCLA. I'm Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer, become an everyday listener of the Locked On UCLA podcast. Tomorrow, we're going to talk the latest football, basketball news as we see fit. I saw UCLA softball, they're rocking and rolling. The Pac-12 tournament's about to get started. We're going to talk some more softball tomorrow. Anything basketball, football related. If anybody decides to come back, we'll be on top of it. If we do get a Day Amara update, or if there's any other transfer situations, we will talk about all those things on Locked On UCLA. Check in tomorrow on Wednesday. Hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube and download anywhere you find this podcast. It's free and available everywhere. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA. Fight, fight, fights. Yeah. Let's go. This has been Locked On UCLA. Go Bruins.